the title of the presentation is Beyond Discovery, because we as PMs, we are used to talk a little much about the discovery part and not about the delivery part. So I built that thinking on discussing with all of you the things that we could do, not only related to the strategic part, related to the discovery and the marketing and everything, but also related to the things we can do when we are already working on prioritizing and thinking about the roadmap. So I chose this product management framework just to illustrate these things that I have just told you, because we have all the items and all the process related to strategy, to the technical part and marketing when we are thinking about product management. And we as product managers, we know that we have to work on all these aspects when we are thinking about a product and we are thinking about the best solution for a customer, for our client, for the market. So we are always thinking about strategy and also execution. And I'm not saying that discovery is not important. And as you can see in that presentation, in that slide, we have all the things related to trying to understand what we are trying to build to solve the problems. But we have also to take a look at the things that are related to when we are delivering things. Because, for example, you have here several tools you can use to understand the priorities, understand if you have a good opportunity tree, or if you have a good design thinking based on diamond, double diamond, or other techniques you can use to discover and try to understand about the roadmap you have to build. But at the same time, you have to be concerned about how you can deliver that. And that's the part I think most of us are always struggling when we are starting effectively to deliver things. And how can we deliver more value to the customer, to the business, to our company, not only thinking about the discovery part, but also thinking about the delivery one. So the most important thing I think about planning agile delivery, we have to think about slicing the scope. And we as PMs, we are very used to working on that, but at the same time, we have some things that we are always have in our mind related to thinking about add value to the business, and we are always thinking about outcomes and not outputs, but we not always are thinking about mitigating risks. And so I think that not only important to add value to the business, we have to understand how can we use that delivery part to reduce the risks, not only of putting something that is not desirable in production, but also to put in production something that our internal users, our key users, our beta users can also start testing and evaluating even before we have the entire feature or the entire roadmap in production. So we talk a lot about outcomes and outputs, about getting feedback sooner, but we don't talk too much about mitigating the risks of delivery. So I think that's something that we should keep in mind. That is very important for us to understand the strategies of slicing the scope. And also, as I mentioned, we are very used to thinking about the strategies about slicing the scope, thinking about vertical slices, about having incremental features, incremental tools, incremental necessities being held. And we always use those techniques related to build, measure, learn, and repeat, and evaluate things in an iterative way. And this is something that we have to keep in mind, that we are at this moment thinking that the strategy for slicing the scope is very important for us to try to understand how it's going to be a faster way and a better way to deliver the things we have already mapped before that are important for the business. So, for example, if you are planning an initiative that we have 2 or 3 platforms, and we have the entire roadmap for that, and you have to understand how can you do that for having the best approach. And this is something that we are sometimes just working with the technology people, just working with the engineering, trying to slice the things more related to the technical part, more related to the feature itself, but we are not always using our product backlogs and product experience to think about that. So one of the most important parts related to how can we do that, slice the scope, is related to the epics and stories. And I think that's something that as a PM, we are very used to doing day by day. And we are very used to evaluating the trade-offs of doing now or later. And we always use those kind of techniques such as Moscow, something we must have, something it's going to be nice to have, something that is very important, something that it would be nice to have, and so on. But at the same time, we are not always using the prioritization, trying to avoid the risks. So sometimes we are very focused on targeting an MVP as something that the customer, the client can use when they get that. And sometimes we are not thinking about how can we deliver something that we can use to test and to mitigate the risks of the delivery, of the implementation, of the development itself. So I would say that sometimes it's better for us to think about some of the use case scenarios, about the happy path, about a specific job to be done, and we can start working from that. And when we are slicing these epics and these stories, we can say that not all of them can be put directly in the hand of the final customer, the final user, but at the same time, we can have some other people testing it before having that. So sometimes we have different edge cases, and we have several different scenarios, depending if it's a guest user, if it's a logged user, if they have to upload the documents, if they don't have to upload the documents. Can we slice those stories, those epics, in parts in which we can test, and we can put someone testing part of the scope as soon as possible? Because we can at least test some of the scenarios in advance. And for example, you have to have in your mind, what are you trying to validate here? Are you trying to validate a hypothesis of your product? Are you trying to validate that you're going to be able to reach the date, the target date you have for that delivery? Are you trying to understand the customer journey? Is that something that some key user business area can help you with testing before you have everything delivered? So I think the most important part here is trying to understand what you are trying to reach with that, your approach can be related to what you are trying to achieve here. And I have some, it's not consensus, it's a polemic part of it, but I believe that when you as a PM have some kind of background in technology, or you study a little bit more about that, it's going to be easier for you to perform this kind of breaking the stories and breaking the epics in a way that's going to be easier for you to test this. Because when if you have some knowledge about the back end, about the front end, about how the system works, you can work closely to your engineering team, and you can work together to think about different solutions, to think about things that you can prioritize, not only thinking about the outcome itself, but also some little outputs that are going to become the outcome at the end. And as soon as you have data, it's going to be easiest for you to understand which are the use cases that are more frequent, or which one is going to be the one that you have to prioritize, or you have to understand the big risk related to development is related to what part of the things that you are delivering. So I think it's something that's going to be nice to have. And I mentioned that something that you can do is not only related to the outcome itself, but also the small outputs. And something that we are always used to talking about with engineering is how can I build a walking skeleton to help us test and help us put something in production, or as a QA manner that we can already being testing this. So this is more used when we are starting some new different platform, but it's something that is very important to help us trying to understand how can we mitigate the risks of the development if we can put something in an end-to-end flow, even if you don't have all the information about the features we are delivering. So for example, you have something that is a back-office platform, and you have a customer-facing platform, and you have a new feature that's going to be the point of entrance from the customer side, and you have to receive that in the back end, and you have to process and change the status, and you have to get the new information from the other platform, and you have to publish the events that are going to be consumed by another platform. So sometimes you are not delivering something that is an MVP, something that the customer is able to be using, but at the same time, you are able to check if all the points, all the touch points from your architecture and your internal system are already working, are already being on air, and it's something that's going to be reducing the risk of discovering when you have the entire feature, the entire outcome related to a feature almost ready to be put in production. So can we have some parts of the features that are marked? Can we have some contracts that are defined in a hard way, and we can change it afterwards? Can we create some structure that we can have some of the functionality, but not all of them? So that's something we can always think when we are working on with the technology team, within the engineering team, trying to understand that, especially when you are doing the first deploy for something, you have to be aware that that is something that we can do, trying to get more a fast feedback about what we are doing from technical perspective. And when we are talking about delivering something that is not new, that it's a customer-facing platform that is already being used, or if you are delivering a new feature in a back-office platform that is already being used, you can always work with feature switch, feature flags. And this is something that, working with the other parts that we mentioned, that we can use small outputs and not the entire outcome. You can put some happy path. You can develop firstly some of the job to be done and not all of them. And if you are using this strategy of enabling feature switch, you can always be testing and mitigating risks. You don't have to have a large release at the same time. So you can put things in production. You can only put that available for some users, for some group of users, because you have this feature switch. So this is going to be seen just by the financial team. This is going to be seen just by the administrative team. So you have someone that can help you testing that, and at the same time, you don't have the worries, the concerns about just having to have all the feature developed to put in production. Because even if we have rollout strategy, sometimes the rollout strategy is also thinking about having an MVP or already having the entire feature, and afterwards you decide who are going to see it or not. If you are doing a feature switch with the internal team, with your key users, the business users, you can also have part of the features delivered. You can have the entire flow for one feature that is always covering one scenario and not all the scenarios, but at the same time, that's something that you'd consider as a must-have. At the same time, you can always test that before having all the entire scenarios and all the must-haves. So this is something that is very important for you to work with the engineering team to have, because it's something that is very important to test that as soon as possible. So if you are doing some thinking that things that are already in production, this is a great strategy to do it.